Bart, I have wow. Dylan's in for it, isn't he? With that U6.
Listen, thoughts and prayers to Dylan, because that is not an easy task he's about to have to take on this weekend.
Oh man. I want a full report, but then I don't want a full report. It's like the Chris Basham injury. It's like, it's like, do I want to see it? I want the information, but I don't know if I want to look.
You know what? The most important thing at that age is that they have fun. And I'm sure Dylan will be able to do that.
Yes. All right. So you are here this week because there's a lot to talk about on a bunch of different fronts.
There's a lot to talk about, John.
Yes. Let's start with the national team stuff. And, there's we got Atlanta United players who are going on international duty. We've got some youngins who got some call-ups. When you look at stuff from the youth national perspective and the national team perspective, you got some friendlies coming up here in short order. What's your 30,000-foot view of this other than no one gets hurt?
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing is please no one get hurt for Atlanta United or really anyone. We don't want that. But the 30,000-foot view is this seems like the first time in a while that U.S. Soccer has had a comprehensive plan for the entirety of one of its programs. You see at this point in time, the U.S. men senior team putting together their roster for the friendlies. You saw 23 players there. I think you saw when you looked at the list of U23 players that are assembling for a camp this week as well during this window, which is key. They're doing this youth camp during a FIFA international window, hosting friendlies. You see a pretty good demarcation of players who a lot of people would say they should be involved with the senior national team, but they're not. They are on this U23 youth national team because that's where they kind of fit best right now. We're talking players like Paxton Aronson, John Tolkien, Caleb Wiley, Tanner Tessman, Gianluca Busio. But then also you saw yesterday the release of the U19 roster for the Pan Am Games later this month. Now, that's obviously a little bit different because I'm sure U.S. Soccer didn't really have a full choice of players to go on this random tournament that doesn't take place during any FIFA international window and would require a lot of those players to miss club playing time, specifically if you were trying to get like Caleb Wiley, who would definitely be a part of that age group. Well, Atlanta United plays a very important game on October 21st and then plays a couple of important games during the Pan Am Games. Whether or not we actually need Caleb Wiley, because we'll probably lose anyway, is to be decided. But, the point is Caleb is the perfect example of a guy who should be at the Pan Am Games, but not going to because of this. So the holistic picture being, okay, well, we'll put Caleb Wiley in this U23 squad. We know that we feel confident he'll be an Olympic player next year. And you're finally getting to see U.S. Soccer have a plan for all levels of the program, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's, you're sitting there and it's like, wait a minute. We've got all these folks that were calling in and doing all these different things. I'm thoroughly confused and disoriented by all of this activity. I have no earthly idea what's going on here. There's organization.
I know. And John, this is, we talked about this multiple times on the Soccer for Us podcast, that this U23 camp specifically is the perfect example of something and the reason why U.S. Soccer needs a central training HQ, because they're training and playing out in Phoenix at Phoenix Rising Complex. And I'm sure Phoenix is a great location, a great facility, all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I'm sure they're charging U.S. Soccer money. So, yes, it is expensive to build a holistic training center with all the things they want to build, but it is a heck of a lot cheaper than renting the field space in Phoenix and, to be fair, even in Nashville, where the men are currently training. I think they will be heading out to Hartford Thursday or Friday. So those are the benefits.
Yeah, and I think that once again, with all of these different things going on simultaneously, it'll be good to have this centralized location where you ain't paying all these different folks all this kind of money, and you can sit there and it's like, nope, everybody comes here, and it gives U.S. Soccer, and I mean that in the the broadest sense of the quotation marks, the chance to keep an eye on everybody all at
Literally,
the same
yeah.
time. It's like, oh, over here on field 3, it's the U23s. Over here, it's the U15s. Over here, it's the national team. And I think it's something that's sorely missed. Mercifully, we're only a handful of years until that happens. But having all of this, the scattered idea of, okay, so you're here, and you're here. I think you lose out on the monitoring aspect of, oh, okay, so if someone's doing well here, maybe we should shift them from field 3 to field 4, and they can be a part of another training group entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even take to account today the US U23 play a friendly tonight in Phoenix. Well, that obviously would have been one of those things that were, they're having friendlies with Mexico and Japan. That would have been hosted at this facility here in Atlanta when that happens. Pretend the U.S. senior team is also here training. Well, they could just go watch that. That sounds fun, right? Like, that's a cool thing for like a Christian Pulisic or a Weston McKennie to be cheering on a guy like Paxton Aaronson, who they know, obviously, or a guy like Jack McGlynn to, watch them and cheer them on. That's just cool. It builds the program and it builds the brotherhood that I do think Greg Berhalter wants to try to instill, that I'm sure that Matt Crocker wants to instill. And something that Matt Crocker, I think, is taking from his time up and down the levels of the English football pyramid, where you have academies, but they're all in theory at the same kind of like complex. And I think it's a positive.
What did you think about the Marko Mitrovic hire in the first place for the U23s?
Well, he's not Jason Christ, so I think that's a good hire. No, I mean, I think it was clear that they just elevated some people behind him and said, okay, we like this guy as the U23s. I think it's good to have, even with Jason Christ, he wasn't a real full-time hire once it got time to actually have qualification and go, try to qualify for last Olympics, whenever that was. What year was that? 2021 is when we had the last Olympics. That's right.
Wow.
Trying to remember what year it was. So this is good. It's full-time hire. I don't think the manager itself is the most important thing, but the fact that he is full-time, he'll be working with and under Greg to kind of put together something that looks like a U.S. soccer playing team when we get to the field. And we'll see more tonight. I mean, I'm genuinely curious. I mean, I don't think we'll see any grand revelations. I just want to see how this team plays, because we've seen the youth teams especially play a very high-paced kind of pressing style. And I'm interested to see how that's going to carry over, because if you have coaches in place who are a little bit more under the direction of the senior national team coach, and then by extension, the director of sport, whatever Crocker's title actually is.
Grand Exalted.
Yeah. Will they be less press heavy? Because we saw that a lot under, we think, Tab Ramos and guys like that, and more possession heavy. I'm just curious. I'm interested to see how this team is going to play.
The U23 roster, for those that don't know, in net, Christopher Brady from Chicago, John Polskamp from Sporting, and Schulte from Crew. Defenders, Brendan Craig, Maximilian Dietz from Greuther Fürth in the Bundesliga B, Nathan Harriel, who has learned how to, have his arm in a chicken wing position and not get it called for a handball, so he can take that to the national level. Brian Reynolds from Westerlo, John Tolkien, Jonathan Tompkinson from Bradford City, Caleb Wiley, midfield, Paxton Aaronson, Busio, you mentioned, Benja Kromoski, Jack McGlynn, Aiden Morris, Tanner Tessman, Obed Vargas up top, Byrik Terovich for New England, Taylor Booth out of the Netherlands, currently playing at Utrecht, Johan Gomez for Eintracht Braunschweig, Brian Gutierrez with the Fire, Bernard Kamungo, fantastic story for those of you that don't know it. That's your Google search for today. Read up on Bernard Kamungo. Duncan McGuire, who just scored again, and Indiana Vasilev, who has golden ticket status here at SDH. This is some firepower here with this U23 group.
The only real position that I'm worried about is that center back position. But our fullbacks, our goals, everything else is really good. And this is an example of what the MLS Academy system, now that we're finally seeing, 10, 15 years on of actual academies being placed, you see really talented guys at this level who in the past would have been part of the U.S. senior squad because, well, they're really talented. I mean, think of Paxton Aronson, Brian Reynolds. They've got some time with the senior team, but they are not by any stretch full senior players, I don't think. And in the past, we would have had to include them because, they're playing in Europe. They're great players. But now we can kind of keep them at a level that makes sense for their development.
You mentioned center back and central defense. Brian Sciaretta, also over at Soccer America, asked Mitrovic about it. Is central defense a concern right now? Mitrovic says, quote, "Those first team minutes, let me say why it will help them. First, A, their development and future. Then B, to be ready for the Olympic Games. You have a season where you don't have enough playing time. How likely are you really going to be in good form to perform in the Olympic Games? But on the other side, we see that as an opportunity to help them. If we believe that some players are high potentials and they have a full national team path or can compete and play in Olympic Games, but in one stage of their career they're struggling with playing minutes, maybe this is a great opportunity to support them, to give them confidence, to show them that they have quality and that they're talented players. Down the road, in order to earn an opportunity to play for the national team, you have to play for your team. But sometimes we know that every player is going through challenging moments in their clubs, and we don't want to just turn our back to those players. We're here to help them as well." So it seems like Mitrovic understands going in that he's got some dudes who are in central defense that aren't getting a whole lot of minutes, but hoping that these kinds of friendlies can get them those minutes and at least reinforce that, okay, you're here and you can do the gig if we need you to do it later.
Yeah, and I think that's always the key to understand with youth national team rosters is the idea of getting your best group of players in this particular age group is a fantasy, not a reality. We had to call in Brendan Craig later. He wasn't on the initial roster announcement. We called him in, I think Monday, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Sunday, somewhere like that. It is, but it's also one of those things, again, where you have to look at the overall attempt to play soccer in a cohesive way, look at individuals on the field and how they're playing, because sometimes, especially for a friendly window like this, you're not going to get your first choice players. I don't know why some of the U23 center backs weren't released because, in my opinion, again, it's a FIFA international window. There's no reason to not release them, but clubs have their own reasons, and we have to respect that.
When it comes to playing international squads and it turns into basically you're playing the same team in more than one location, you're not getting any kind of variety of opposition. I guess this is a twofold question. What does that say about your schedule maker, and what does that say about the state of the opponents that you're trying to get and can't, because you end up having to play the same team more than once in a window?
Is this about the U23s or the U.S. women who just announced their
U.S. U.S. women. U.S. women. I took.
Yeah.
I went Toonses on you, and I went this way.
Sorry. Yeah, I think this is, as I tweeted yesterday, this would be my resolution for U.S. women's program, to try to avoid double booking these teams. The legitimate problem, is, we don't exist in a silo. And these teams, even if we wanted to get two Asian teams, say we wanted to get Korea and China, right? Well, are they going to come over here and do nothing for the other friendly? Are you going to play one game and then that's it? This is where we do need Canada and Mexico to kind of step up. I know Canada can barely tie their own shoelaces at this point in time, but it would be really helpful if a team like Mexico could step up and say, oh yeah, we'll play China, we'll host them, because one, I think it would benefit greatly the Mexican women's national team, who again did not qualify for the World Cup last time, despite everyone telling me that Liga MX Femenil is a great league and better than NWSL. But it does hinder the U.S. when you only can pitch one game. It would make a lot more sense if you could pitch, oh, well, you come here and play us, and then you can go play Canada, and then you can go play Mexico. I think that would probably be the reason. That's why when you see the U.S. get really quality opponents at home, it's in that She Believes Cup type tournament, or the Tournament of Nations thing that we tried for a while there. When you only have one good team in a region, or in Canada's case, not a team unable to even host friendlies, you're going to run into problems like these where it's unfair to bring in another team alongside China if they also can't play a friendly, two friendlies in this window.
Let's get to reffing down here. Is there anything that I
Hold
missed?
on, John. I got to get one more Canada joke in.
Go
I
for it.
think Canada announced today that they found a couple of dollars of change in their couch, so they actually will be able to host the Nations League qualifier in November. So congrats, Canada.
There you go. Okay. So, but wait a second. Are they loonies, toonies, or dollars?
Actually, I think at this point it's crypto. So they.
Okay. Yeah. Good. What nicely done.
Canada's up there. The Canada soccer's up there mining crypto, finding
yes,
some way to pay these players.
Yes.
It's actually just 10 bits. They're just paying them in 10 bits.
See, and Canadian Tire dollars. Canadian Tire bucks and 10 bits is how they're doing it. I'm sure.
Somehow Canada curling can put on all these competitions, and Canada soccer can't. You tell me.
Less athletes in curling.
Better athletes
for
in curling
squad.
up there.
Yes. You and your man Shuey right here, right there. All right, so let's get into reffing down here, and there's an ish load to get into this week, and it's not.
We didn't have anything from the U.S. from the Atlanta game, though, right? I just wanted to make sure we cleared that board. Ishmael did a pretty decent job. Other than some time wasting.
Elfath was great. Alex Chilowitz, however, was not.
Yeah. I think we've ad nauseum talked about that Philadelphia game.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. So then let me ask you philosophically, when it comes to Abby, it is a tie-in. She wants to know about your new handle.
Barnabas Prime 19 is my personal.
Yeah.
SoccerForUSPod is for the show.
Yeah.
That's why I tweet my soccer tapes.
Yeah, he's working two separate lanes of traffic, and so
I manage 3 social media accounts. That used to be 5, so we've cut down.
He's on a.
I only got paid for 2.
He's on a 280 character diet, basically.
My Facebook right now is crazy because my former company still hasn't figured out how to take me off of the Facebook admin.
But that happens a lot.
It does. It's tough. I also manage the WVU Peach State Alumni Association Facebook. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Facebook's a little bit easier to navigate than Twitter when it comes to posting, but still,
yes,
it's a lot to keep up with. A lot of notifications on my phone.
Yes. I want to start with a philosophical question, and I know that it drives Michael Head crazy on a daily basis when we discuss reffing down here and how the state of affairs lends itself to discussing about more errors that are made by center refs and by crews, even with the advent of VAR. We have, and it's just the nature of, I think, of how we are these days. We have a tendency to say more negative things than we do positive things, even though we did just sit there and tip our hat to Ismail Elfath. When it comes to pro as an entity, how much recourse do we have when it comes to demanding more from these officials? The way that I want to present it here on the show is that we have to continue to talk about it, or we end up just accepting it for what it is, and you don't want to accept poor negotiating of situations. And that's why I drive people crazy by talking about poor officiating, because if you stop talking about it, then you're accepting it.
Before I answer that, I just got a text message from my younger brother, the freshman in college, who did not know who Cheryl Crow is. So anyway, I had a little bit of an existential crisis for a couple of seconds. She's opening for Zach Bryan next summer, and we bought tickets to that concert, and I was very excited. Anyway, I think, John, to answer your question, because I think this is where you come from, and obviously where I come from, our goal is not to put down pro, but to build up pro. And there's a difference between criticism and critique.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between wanting the product to be better and just trying to bash the product, right? We're not trying to talk about, pro in a way, hopefully we're not, where everything they do is wrong and we want to try to dismantle them. I've seen a lot of people say, we need to get rid of pro. And I'm like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Without pro, we would not have proper referee development at the professional level because they would just kind of be on their own. Having a full-time staff to support the referees is better. Also, one that is technically separate from the league is better, right? That said, that doesn't mean there aren't things that pro/other professional referee unions, if you will, they need to improve upon. I mean, we talked about PGMO failing miserably. More on that later, I'm sure.
Yes.
We talk about pro, but when we talk about pro here, Chilowitz had a bad game. I think we all agree, right? The goal is how does the oversight help him improve, and how does the oversight work with the whole team? Because I don't think Chilowitz was the only problem in that game. I thought VAR and the AVAR missed an opportunity to have your center referee make a final decision on a controversial call.
Right.
Apparently, John, there is an angle that shows the ball from 7 yards away hit Harriel in the hip and then his outstretched arm, which a lot of people will argue negates a handball opportunity. I disagree. I don't think we use the deflection type thing in that type of manner, especially when you come to defending inside the box, or when you come to, if I were to have a ball hit my hip and then hit my hand and I still have possession of the ball, I would expect a handball call. If I have a ball hit part of my body, then hit my hand, and it denies a goal scoring opportunity, that's not absolves you from a handball, right? It needs to be a quick deflection, and usually that also comes from within a couple yards, if not feet away.
Right.
That was my issue with that interpretation. Is I thought, oh well, it hit his hip first. Well, he's still 7 yards away, and his arm is still 5 feet behind him. How does this absolve you? So that's one of those things from a pro standpoint that they need to work with the entire referee crew there to go, okay, how did we arrive at this interpretation, this conclusion? And did we interpret the laws of the game correctly in this situation? Because with the video review process, we have the opportunity to make sure we are using the most consistent interpretations of the laws of the game. And that does differ from league to league. It really does. And that's a problem that we can talk about from an overarching standpoint. But again, the goal is to be better, right? Not to blame Chilowitz for us losing, despite Atlanta looking like complete dog crap for about 40 minutes in that game,
Yeah.
If not more.
I'll take the 3 goals in 8, but sure. Okay.
But you can look at that game and go, well, had we got that penalty kick, maybe the game
state would have changed, and it would have been a different approach, so on and so forth.
Philly would have started complaining and dying and pulling hamstrings and crying, in the 16th minute as opposed to
correct
the 17th. I think is that
trying to goad you into cards,
right?
And make sure.
So yes, it's legitimate that the penalty kick the missed call on that could have changed the game. The also legitimate reason is that, and this is where I want people to understand, very rarely do referees have direct impacts on the results of games. Even when we talk about that Liverpool match, well, they still got 2 red cards that were one a little, we can debate it, but one was, Diego Jota earned those 2 yellow cards. So again, did the referee really have an impact on the result of the game? Maybe. We don't even know, though, if Gakpo scores that goal to close out the half, if they've already scored the one before it down a man. So I think we all need to just take that step back and realize referees don't have that much impact on the result. But we do have, referees also need to take ownership that we do oftentimes impact game state by some of the decisions that we make that, as VAR has the opportunity to do, change the state of the game.
Dr. Joe Macknick has, when he has done public speaking, he has taken the rules of the game with him up on a dais. And back when we actually had printed
laws of the game that we got. Now we don't have printed laws.
When you had printed laws of the game, do you follow that same idea that you just showed there on camera about the rules of the game being flexible when it comes to being in book form, or is it a rigid book with a spine that is not supposed to be fixed in any way?
Well, two things. One, I was old enough to remember when we had a referee book as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the laws of the game, and then we had the white book, which was kind of the official procedures and interpretations and kind of guidebook for referees. Anyway, the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. We do this the best example I can give you is throw-ins. Okay. The laws of the game are pretty clear on what a throw-in looks like, where it should be taken, all these things. How often do you see a team, a player, grab the ball and walk 5 to 10 yards upfield?
Yeah.
Now, in theory, I need to say, no, go back to this exact spot where the ball went out of bounds, because we all know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that a battle you need to be fighting every single time during a game, right? Now, there are some egregious, my joke is always, you need to at least start where the ball went out of play, because some people pick up the ball and walk 10 yards and then
go 10, run another 10, and they've gained 20 more.
And I'm like, well, wait a second here, but at the same time, I would never really think about if a player takes a ball 10 yards from behind. Abby, you're barking up the wrong tree. That I think we'll get into that too. But how many times have we seen a player take a throw in, 10 yards behind maybe where the ball went out of play, and no one ever bats an eye at that?
Yeah.
Well, that's technically not what we're supposed to do either. But again, it's just a battle I'm going to be fighting. Illegal throw-ins. We've gotten very liberal with the interpretation of what a throw-in should be. Be it players having both feet on the ground, and it's like, well, you can make an argument that both feet are on the ground at some point during the throw, and we move on. Or Weston McKinney is great. He's got like the one-handed, but like somehow two hands are on the ball, but only one arm's actually throwing, and it's like, okay, well, how did you actually do that? And we've kind of gotten away from that, because it is something that, as we look at, and this is where data and science, sports science comes into play. As we look at a lot of throw-ins, we've realized and learned that a throw-in is not really an advantageous opportunity for most teams. Most throw-ins result in a change of possession within 5 seconds. And even if you do, it's not like you're getting, unless you're Atlanta United, who loves to give off throw-in goals off of throw-ins, because we just choose not to pay attention on defense for most of the time. But it does not usually result in an advantageous attacking situation. Abby, I know you think that. I'm aware that you think that. And I agree that you are allowed to have that thought. I'm telling you, that's not something that we're truly looking for, because, again, of all the things to worry about, of all the things we're looking for, most referees are not fully focused on the guy taking the throw, because there's 21 other people on that field who are probably doing something stupider.
So then should an AR keep his mind on a foul throw?
Well, in theory they do too, but what's an AR looking at? An offside line, possible stuff going on in front of him. Because though there is no offside on a throw-in, that offside line is still moving. And who knows what could happen if you have, a guy throws the ball into someone's head and then heads that to the guy who's in that offside position from the throw-in. He makes that run early. Well, I need to be aware of that too. So, I mean, again, I don't know, Abby, you think that was a foul throw, and you're allowed to think that. I'm just telling you that that's not something that's going to come up as oh my gosh, this is a game-changing decision. I need to be fully focused on it. We've seen it happen. But the reality is, most of the time people cry for a foul throw. It's not really a foul throw. Sorry. And when it comes, no, VAR is not taking, oh my good Lord.
Bam had to get in his shot.
No, we don't need VAR to intervene with that. And Abby, as I said, a change of possession that we probably would have also given back to the other team, as statistics and reports have shown that throw-ins don't really result in a continued period of possession for teams most of the time.
Yeah. With PGMOL, Howard Webb has acknowledged disappointment from PGMOL at the unprecedented errors that led to a video assistant referee system denying Liverpool the legitimate goal against Spurs 10 days ago. He said that IFAB should consider adapting the rules of the game to create a window of time for reversing similarly egregious mistakes. Webb suggested Darren England, who was VAR that day, had gone through his checking process too quickly before accidentally confirming an incorrect offside decision against Luis Diaz. England also had failed to implement communication protocols effectively when relaying his decision to colleagues. Basically, the lack of a modifier is what we're talking about here with the English language and Darren England. Webb said the referee's body had since, and this is from our friends at The Guardian, Webb said the referee's body had since collectively addressed officials about the importance of following communication protocols and adding essential context when affirming or querying an on-field decision. Speaking on the program, match officials mic'd up, which reviews Premier League refereeing decisions using audio discussions between on-field officials and VAR, Webb said, quote, "Of course, we were all disappointed that the VAR system didn't step in to rectify a clear error. Nobody's more disappointed than the officials themselves. They take pride in their work, want to be a positive influence on the game. And, of course, in this instance, it wasn't the case." Clearly showed audio that England is going through the process pretty quickly. But the thing is, Bart, if you have modifiers, if you use your grammar correctly, then we don't have this issue. It's like
this is exactly where I land on it, John. Is I don't know that this is one instance, which I agree we should try to remedy, does not mean we need to change the entire laws of the game. As referees, we just need to find better ways to implement the laws of the game. So to your point here, all you needed to do was take 2 seconds to say check complete, not offside, or player on side.
mm-hmm.
And then at that point, hopefully the center ref goes, oh, not offside, or he was onside. Great, it's a goal. Or, okay, so not offside, he was onside, we have a good goal. And the VAR, the AR, whatever, they're all on the headset. Should be able to say, yeah, that sounds right. Again, I'm with you. This is a communication issue, not a laws of the game issue. This was referees trying to make this something that was secondhand as opposed to a legitimate decision-making process.
And Bam, by the way, can't wait for the A-League to start. So the first verdict, so Bart can have his head in his hands again. He's waiting. He's waiting for your migraine, your A-League migraine to start.
I hope it just doesn't come against my favorite A-League team, Brisbane Roar. So
let me ask you this: do you notice this year? And the WSL has had a massive spike in cards on average this season. Do you notice either more fouls or less fouls being called? It seems like less fouls are being called on this side of the pond. And is that a mandate that we are to have less fouls being called? How are you perceiving what's been going on this season with calling of fouls, the issuing of cards, and that kind of stuff? Because traditionally it's in like the mid-20s, but this year it's less.
I would say that it's not necessarily – so we don't mandate call fewer fouls.
Right.
That would not be the – but it's a instruction to the referees of how we want fouls to be called or how we want the game to be called. For example, we can talk about this. The Manchester City, who did they play? Game this past weekend, was it Chelsea? Where there were, 8,000 yellow cards and like 3 red cards given out.
8 yellow. Yeah, Man City, Chelsea, 8 yellows and 2 reds.
Yeah. That seemed to be a referee being very literal with the instructions given to her about how to caution people for time wasting, specifically poor Alex Greenwood. But she also did that with Kate McCabe in the first match of this. Like, this referee specifically seems to be like super on it.
Yeah.
And again, this is where pro or PGMOL or whoever, I don't remember who has authority over the women's side of things. I don't know if it's PGMOL or not. They will have with the league in accordance with the league, talk about how we want this game to be called, things that we want to be tighter, things that we want to be less stringent on. I mean, the NFL does this. We talk about this all the time. Oh, the NFL, the NBA, they're really looking for X, Y, and Z this year, as opposed to what they may have been looking in past years. So it's not a mandate to call fewer or more fouls. It's about how we're calling the game. It's not a mandate to give more or fewer yellow cards necessarily. It's, okay, we want to really crack down on X behavior. So in this case, it's time wasting. And I've dealt with this. I had a coach who, in a U14 match, thought that the FIFA mandate of we need to be more stringent on yellow cards for time wasting applies to U14. And I was like, well, one, FIFA doesn't have mandate over here outside of the normal laws of the game. That's something. And two, I'm not giving a yellow card to a teenager just because he kicked a ball. He kicked a goal after we blew him up for offside. Like, we're going to have conversations, right? He wanted an immediate yellow card. I'm like, I'm not giving a kid an immediate yellow card for continuing to play after the whistle. Will I have a conversation with him? Yes, because he's 14. If he's 23, if it's Abby's son, then yeah, we might be giving him a yellow card for it. And that's the other thing is, we have different levels of the game. I'm not going to give a yellow card or a red card necessarily to players for procedural things at the youth level where I need to have this explanation to them, right? Those things, though, at the higher level, we may not give them the grace that they think that they deserve.
It is the FA and the PGMOL that is a part of the
Yeah.
WSL discussion. 12 games.
And NWSL has a couple of other, like, we have pro, but then we also have pro referees. Oh, what's the other one? I can't remember it now, but we have another one for NWSL, USL, stuff like that.
Okay. 12 games this season in the WSL, 43 yellows compared to 23 at the same stage last year, owing to clampdowns over time wasting and dissent.
Yeah.
And
and again, we saw that with time wasting, the yellow card was given more harshly. Now, again, I think that you, as a referee, need to take actions before giving a yellow card for time wasting. But I would also like MLS referees to crack down a little bit more on time wasting, because Lord knows that teams come into Atlanta and they waste time from minute one. But as soon as Brad Guzan does it after we have a lead, then it's a greatest sin ever.
Yeah. We have posted the light board because we know we have gone over, and
Sorry,
but we are.
I ain't got nothing better to do, so.
But hey, it is a. But we are not time wasting. It is just time that is added on because we have the discussion to make. Alex, Bart cares so much about the small people that I've committed a handball and he didn't call it.
See, and this is why we talk about those Venerable rules, Alex. So I was refereeing his 5-a-side game here at Station Soccer, and the legit problem is I'm the only referee on the field, and I stand on the sideline, so my angles are not great, to be quite honest. I can't see everything, and I can't stand in the middle of the field because y'all will run into me and kick balls into me because the field's 3 yards wide. So, but this is a great example of when we talk about bending rules. I mean, there are times that a goal kick is taken and that ball is, we all do it in the adult league where we kind of just spin it out there, or we drop it on the ground. It's still rolling, but I'm like, you know what? We're all aware this is a goal kick. It's fine. Like, do I need to I don't want you to dribble the ball and then take a goal kick, but if the ball is rolling a little bit and a 5-a-side game where they kick the ball 3 yards out, just outside a little goal area, is this a need to stop the game? Hey, we got to retake this.
You sit there and you go like this on a 5-a-side match.
No. But, to Alex's point, I might not see the handball, or it might be, I don't really want to know. I don't know if that's a full handball. I couldn't get a great look at it. Like, yeah, it probably was. Or I was just giving your team some, I was just giving your team the benefit of the doubt because y'all were losing by a couple goals.
Wow.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
They played well. They just couldn't score. They had a really good goal. They had an Atlanta United performance, dominated the play, and came up against a really good goalkeeper.
All right. So what other refereeing stuff did I not address this week that was on the table? Anything, or are we good?
No, I actually think we had a decent referee week. The WSL stuff was the one I really did want to talk about because that does come down to management and instruction, and you're going to have that different in WSL from NWSL to the Division, or however you pronounce it in French, or Liga MX Feminine. Like, they're all going to be different because every referee body works with their leagues to make sure the game is played in the way that league wants it to be played.
Okay. Well, he is at SoccerForUSPod. He's going to be looking at a bunch of friendlies in a bunch of different places, especially the ones at 38th and Washington out in Phoenix, where Phoenix Rising are getting a paycheck, and they ain't even playing because you got to rent the facility. What's the latest with SoccerForUSPod and with you?
Well, we've got 2 games coming up. Obviously, the USA plays Germany on Saturday. That's a pretty big game in East Hartford, Connecticut. Hey, look, it's a sellout. I'm glad they sold out the 40,000 seat stadium. I'm a little unsure why we're playing in East Hartford. Richler Field / Pratt and Whitney Stadium is old and
UConn football doesn't have a home game.
Yeah, well, they don't. Again, UConn doesn't really play football when it comes down to it, but it's we got that, and then next week on Tuesday you've got USA Ghana. I'll plug the American Outlaws Party on Saturday. We're doing an Oktoberfest celebration. Got some Stein specials and other things. So if you want to come watch the US-Germany game and celebrate Oktoberfest, come to Fido Midtown for that. And then so next week we'll record kind of a recap of what happened in these 2 friendlies, 2 legit teams, right? You get Germany, Ghana, 2 World Cup teams. One of them was good. One of them was Germany. And you hopefully learn a little bit more about your team. Obviously, Germany going through some changes. So we're not even quite sure what type of team Germany is going to put out there, to be honest. This is going to be interesting for Berhalter to do a little bit of coaching. I don't know how much he will do, to be honest. I think that's my question, John, is a friendly. Do you try to truly adapt to Germany and set up to play against them? Or do you set up your normal lineup and say, okay, put out your best 11 and go have fun? It's an existential question that, Greg has to kind of toy with, because you've got Ghana on Tuesday. Hopefully you can dominate that game. I think that would be a nice sign if you're taking it to Ghana and really dictating the game and the tempo. That would be, I think, a good sign for Berhalter and the fact that his system might be actually kind of working.
And Fox Deportes, this has come across in the last little bit. Fox Deportes announces the acquisition of English language rights to the Mexican national team's complete schedule of friendlies through the FIFA World Cup of 26. Fox Deportes live coverage of El Tri begins with Mexico, Ghana on Saturday at 8:30 in Charlotte. Wow. Then Germany in Philly on the 17th. Looks like it's Rodolfo Landeros, Mariano Trujillo, and Adrian Garcia Marquez, who knows his music. And it's always fun to discuss Rush with AGM on the 280-character app. Bam, with a question before you go. Who's going to win between the 2 football powerhouses, Myanmar and Macau, tomorrow morning?
Oh, we're going to go with Myanmar.
Okay. I will look at.
I have no reason to believe one or the other.
Yes. So I will look up the juice boxes in that one before we go. But Bart, as always, thanks for coming on for Reffing Down here and going through all the national team stuff with us. It's always fun to catch up with you on Wednesdays. Be safe, my friend.
Hey, it's great to talk to you from the capital of U.S. soccer.
Yes, the Atlanta. Atlanta is a soccer city. And we have the scarf to prove it, by the way, here at SDH. We have the scarf to prove it.
There you go. We're gonna just claim that now and going forward. So
absolutely, it's been claimed. All right, enjoy your coffee. Be good, my friend.
Bye, y'all.